Hey ladies and gents, and welcome to another episode of this trucker vlog of mine. My channel has developed enough to the point where I got well over 100 subscribers now. So thank you guys all for subscribing. And it's developed enough to the point where I'm starting to get special requests. And I had someone in the comments of one of my videos suggest that I actually make some content about learning Spanish. And at first I was thinking, and I even replied in such a manner where I was like, I don't know if I have enough time to actually make that kind of content because of my work schedule as a trucker. But then I realized, hey, I can actually vlog my experience when it comes to learning Spanish, because I do got a lot of stuff to say about it. So I guess you could, I'm going to periodically make content from now on that will involve Spanish learning. But what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to vlog my Spanish journey. Now, I will tell you that when I get to the point where I'm actually living in Argentina, and this vlog transforms from a trucker vlog to, I don't know, a passports bro vlog, and then eventually a family vlog, because I'll be vlogging my experience building a family, etc. That, at that point, it'll be a bilingual channel. And also my other channel, Terran Space Program, will become bilingual in nature as well, where I'll be releasing both content in English and content in Spanish. So, I am going to eventually create a Spanish version of the video I created that's titled What This Channel Is All About, when my Spanish skills are at that level. So, so let's talk about my journey learning Spanish. Right now, my journey can be summed up in one word, and when it comes to learning Spanish, my experience is a bull in a china shop. This is the first time I've ever really went through the process of trying to learn another language, at least with the effort that I've put into it. And I feel like a bull in a china shop, because when you learn a new language for the first time, you have to learn how to learn a new language. And I started off experimenting with an app called what's that app called again? Duolingo. And it was very helpful at first, but how I really started it is that before I started using Duolingo, I got me several pages of printing paper, and I sliced them up into like little cards, and I created flashcards, and I started memorizing how to count in Spanish, how to say numbers in Spanish. Then I use that to memorize flashcards to memorize the alphabet. And then I started memorizing the days of the week, the names of the month, the names of seasons, just the basic stuff, because I was trying to think, okay, how did I learn English? And I was thinking back, and I remember when I was in kindergarten or whatever, I remember using flashcards. And I remember repeating the alphabet every day, and numbers every day, and months and seasons and stuff. So I'm thinking, you know what, I might as well try the same approach. It worked for learning English. Because and I've tried that, and that helped. And then I started using Duolingo when someone at the aerospace startup that I was volunteering with at the time it introduced me to Duolingo. And so that was helpful. So I did Duolingo for a couple years. So I started in January of the year that I left Mexico, and I would think I was April 4th, and it's been several years already. And so I've made pretty much just about every mistake someone can make in the process of learning Spanish, and it's why I'm at the point now where I'm almost conversational. I'm at a point now where I've randomly had small talk type conversations with people in Spanish, but unfortunately I can't go beyond that. But I'm surprised at how much more I'm able to understand what Spanish folks are saying. And so I started off with making flashcards to learn the basics, and then I was using Duolingo for a while, and then off and on I experimented with italki, like getting a lesson here or there from actual native speakers. and I was hanging out at a Facebook Spanish learning group for a while, and I ended up taking a few lessons from someone who's actually from Argentina there, and that was even before I even really started learning about Argentina. But I can't remember the lady's name and it was in the form of Zoom meetings, so which is kind of cool. But unfortunately, I can't continue to do those type of lessons with a teacher because of just how unpredictable my work schedule is. I never know when I'm going to go to sleep until I'm done with a load. And it's 1:40 p.m. in the afternoon right now, and I didn't figure out until, I don't know, 30 minutes ago when I was actually going to go to sleep, because sometimes I have day shift loads, sometimes I have night shift loads. It's too unpredictable for me to do teacher. So over time, though, Duolingo got really freaking boring. And but it did keep me consistent because of how the app has been structured, how it tries to have you do a week streak and everything. So, but out of boredom, I ended up stopped using Duolingo, and then I tried Babbel, and it was just too expensive. And then I was thinking, okay, you know what? I like Star Trek, so I went ahead and got me the entire DVD set for the original Star Trek series, and got me a DVD player that I could use with the TV that's in my truck. And I was thinking, okay, I'll just continue the flashcards method, where I'll just encounter words that I don't understand, because you have to get Star Trek on DVD in order for you to be able to watch Star Trek in Spanish audio and Spanish subtitles. There's no streaming way to do that. And so I got the DVD set, but I still haven't yet actually started using it, because I would have to, because I ran into a problem where I can't really study flashcards while I'm driving, because if you're looking at flashcards, you're not driving. It's a danger. So that idea kind of fell through, and then I started using an app called Pimsleur. It's spelled Pimsleur, and it's like an audio app that I can play, because I was thinking, hey, I'll just spend an hour a day studying Spanish. But the problem is that by the time I park to shut down to do a 10-hour break, I'm so exhausted that I don't have enough mental energy to study. So I had to figure out a way to study while I'm driving, because I drive 10 to 11, sometimes 12 hours a day. And yes, there is an 11-hour clock, DOT regulations, but that doesn't factor in, taking a 30-minute break or stuff that causes you to stop running the truck, and you got paperwork. There's other things that are involved. And but there's long stretches where I'm driving for like 100 plus miles at a time before I have to make a turn somewhere, and I've been killing time by listening to podcasts on like science and physics or whatever on YouTube. So what I did is like, okay, I have to figure out a way to study while I'm driving that's not unsafe. I mean, a safe way to do it. So I've been experimenting with Pimsleur lately, and it seems to be helpful, because what it is that you don't, all you do is that you press play, so you touch the screen only once for like a whole half hour, because that's how long the lessons are, which is safe. And and I just listen and repeat, and it's exposed something about my learning process. Is apparently I have forgotten I've forgotten more than I've learned or something. Like, there's a lot of words that I forgot because I never really practiced it, and this audio app is helping me listen to the language on a regular basis while repeating what, it's listen and repeat, and listen and repeat. And it's actually helpful, because I'm not just listening to the language being spoken, but I'm also speaking it on a regular basis, and it's not distracting while I drive. Of course, if I'm going through an area where every 2 to 3 miles I got to make a turn, I'm not using the app. I'm not even listening to music. But if I'm doing a long stretch, like 100 something miles before I got to take an exit somewhere, that's when I use the app. And I could go through 2 lessons. And it's awesome because I can repeat those lessons as much as I want. And the app isn't that expensive. So that's what I've been doing recently. Now, I haven't used the app in a month, but the reason being is that I went home, used some home times on my birthday, and I had a surgery that I had to get done on my neck. I had to get a cyst removed, and for some reason, during that week, somehow I ended up getting the flu, and I got so sick, was coughing my brains out, and it literally took a month and a week or two on top of that to finally freaking recover, because I can't listen and repeat if I can't even speak without coughing. So I'm finally at a point right now where I can actually start using the damn app again. But so yeah, my experience so far is like a bull in a china shop. I'm just experimenting with different methods of learning to see what sticks. And like I said earlier in this video, I've had moments where I feel like I'm beating myself up, like I'm not getting anywhere, and then randomly I end up having a conversation in Spanish with someone where I'm able to verbalize my thoughts without even thinking about it, it's like one of the things I've learned is that you have to learn to think in Spanish if you're trying to learn Spanish, not like translate in your head as you're speaking. And I've noticed that I've been able to have just short conversations with folks in Spanish, and then when they suddenly repeat to me what they're saying, or sometimes they get excited about the fact that, hey, this white guy speaks Spanish, and so they start speaking Spanish really fast, where I'm actually understanding them when they speak Spanish fast. Now, if they're Puerto Rican, no, I'm sorry, the Puerto Rican accent is infamously impenetrable, and this is something that Spanish-speaking folks have told me. There's many different countries that are Spanish-speaking countries, but a lot of folks from Spanish-speaking countries that are not from Puerto Rico make fun of Puerto Ricans because of how their accent is impenetrable. They don't even understand what they're saying. So I guess Puerto Rico is like Latin America's southern Mississippi, because in America, I've been around all around the United States except for Alaska and Hawaii. And I could tell you that in the United States, a lot of Americans tend to make fun of other Americans in southern Louisiana or southern Mississippi because their southern accent is so thick and so different that no one knows what the hell they're saying, even though it's English. And it's the same way in the Spanish-speaking world. Each country has their own accent. And in a country that's big like Mexico, that's got 32 states, the accent's kind of different depending on what state you're in Mexico as well. So that's what's going on. Now, because there's many different dialects of Spanish, I've decided to study specifically what's called neutral Latin American Spanish. Reason being is that I can't find any content that can specifically teach me to speak Spanish in the way the Argentinians speak it. So my plan is to just learn as much Spanish as I can, and then when I do immigrate to Argentina, I'll probably spend 6 months to a year just getting used to that dialect, or however long it takes for me to get to the point to where I can keep up in a class whenever I'm listening to a lecture. And then that's when I'll get me a student visa and begin to become a student in Cordoba, Argentina. So that's what's going on. And so right now my plan is continue to just experiment, see what happens. So I'm trying this Pimsleur app to see. I have a hard time remembering its name. That I wrote it down on a piece of paper before starting this video. That's why I'm always looking this way to remember the dang name. But it seems to be really helpful, especially for a driver like me, because I learned the hard way due to my bull in a china shop method that I have to find a way to study while I'm driving. Because by the time I get off work, I'm so exhausted that I just need to relax and unwind and do something, or just do nothing for a couple hours before I go to bed, and then get up and do it all over again. And because you got to learn to pace yourself or you burn out. And I might be getting back into Duolingo, just for the sake of spending 15 minutes a day, just being consistent, because I thought I wasn't making any progress with Duolingo until shortly after I stopped using it. I noticed that I randomly started having conversations with folks in Spanish and discovered that I've made a lot more progress than I imagined, and which was surprising. So that's where I'm at right now. And I wish I was good enough in Spanish to verbalize every thought in this video in Spanish, but I'm still not there yet. There's some interesting things I've learned about learning languages, though. Also, I have XM Radio. Here, let me show you this radio right here. When you work for Bar None, you have a free XM Radio account. So I got 2 different Spanish channels that I listen to. I make sure I try to listen to those channels every day as just another way of practicing learning the language. And I've noticed that the more that I study Spanish and the more that I listen to Spanish radio, the more I'm beginning to pick up words. And I'm at a point now where half the time whenever a commercial comes on between songs, I know what they're advertising, which is kind of cool. And one Spanish channel is Aguilar, and I think it's mostly Mexican music. And then there's another channel, I can't remember its name, but it seems to have a mixture. I can tell by the accent that has a mixture of different artists from different countries. And so, yeah, that's what I've been doing so far. Also, I learned something interesting is that, with me living in the United States, I'm constantly meeting immigrants from all over the world. That's just part of living in the U.S. And so I've been doing a thing that whenever I've been starting a habit, and it's a habit I've developed ever since I returned from Mexico to the United States, where whenever I meet someone who's an immigrant and it's obvious that they have a thick foreign accent, the English is their second language, but it's obvious that they've reached the point where they're conversational in English, I start striking up a conversation with them, and I ask them about what their experience has been like from their perspective learning English. And I ask them questions like, hey, is there any mistakes you made in your learning process? Is there anything that you wish you could have done better? Or I ask them, hey, what's really helped you get to the point where you're conversational and you can talk to me? And so far, these people that I talk to, many different countries, not just Spanish-speaking countries, it seems that I've been getting the exact same answer from them, regardless if they're from some country in Latin America or if they're from an African country and they speak a mixture of a native language and French, or someone from Europe. I've talked to people from China, and talked to people from India. I've also talked to some other folks that I'm not entirely sure what country they're from, but they're called Sikhs. They're the ones that have towels wrapped around their heads, and they're not Muslim. And they most of the time find out that their native language is Bandi, but I found out that the Sikh live in a lot of different countries. So not every Sikh I met has been from India. I met some that are from other countries. It would surprise you. And but they all told me it doesn't matter what all these different backgrounds these people come from or what country, parts of the world they come from. Their answer has been pretty much the same. They said that it's been kind of clumsy learning English, but it wasn't until they came to the United States and was living in the United States and was constantly surrounded by English, constantly surrounded by English content, and whether it be English radio, TV in English, movies in English, magazines in English, the radio in English, everything's English, that the experience of living in a country where English is the main language, they told me that really helped them sort of get over the hump of the learning process. And they said that has helped them learn English more than anything else. And they warned me that I might not completely learn Spanish I might not finish my learning process until I'm actually living in Argentina. But they said that that's normal, and half the people that I've talked to, English is like their third or fourth language, because apparently in many places around the world, it's actually very common for people to speak 2 to 3 different languages. And every time I met someone who knows 3 or more languages, with English being one of them, they told me that learning a new language for the first time is the hardest language to learn. But after you finish that, learning new languages just becomes easier. And they've told me that they've found themselves sometimes they'll be speaking to someone who speaks the same several languages as they do, and they'll end up like having a sentence that's got a mixture of 4 or 5 different languages, because you learn to think in those languages that you're learning over a period of time. So, but yeah, that's just some of the interesting things that I've learned. I'm still learning Spanish, and I'm still learning how to learn Spanish. I think the best method that you can use is if you meet a native speaker who teaches Spanish online through a Zoom meeting or something, or through FaceTime, and you sort of pay them over the internet or whatever. That's the best method you can learn. And I wish I can do that, but I can't because of just how unpredictable my work schedule is. I never know when I have free time. And I know I'm not going to have enough energy physically or mentally by the time I get off work to work on any homework that'll give me. So I'm still sticking with trying to do apps. So right now I'm sticking with Pimsleur, and I'm seriously considering going back to Duolingo on top of Pimsleur, just to keep me consistent. So I'm finally have recovered enough from the flu to where I barely cough at all now, and I can actually do this. So that's where I'm at in my Spanish, and so it's a journey, and it feels like it's taken forever, but I know I've made a lot more progress in language than I've imagined, just due to the fact that I've have random short conversations with folks in Spanish, and they speak back to me in Spanish, and I understand like 90% of what they're saying, even if they're speaking fast, which is awesome. I'm still, like I said, but if that person's Puerto Rican, I can't understand a dang thing they're saying. And what's interesting is if I'm speaking to someone who's Cuban, which Cubans are infamous for speaking really fast, I'm actually understand half of what a Cuban says in Spanish, which is interesting. It's a huge achievement for me, because I think Mexican Spanish is probably the easiest to learn, because the way the folks speak Spanish in Mexico is way slower than Cuba or Puerto Rico. But I'm also at a point where I can actually recognize different accents, where I could tell which Spanish-speaking country someone is from just by the way that they speak Spanish. So even if I don't understand what the hell a Puerto Rican's saying, I know that they're from Puerto Rico because I could recognize their accent, which when I first started studying Spanish, I was oblivious to different accents. I thought it was all the same accent. But no, when you learn, you know that. And apparently, from the perspective of someone who's a native Spanish speaker who has never learned English, and they start the process of learning English, they think there's only one American accent. And then they learn about all the different accents that exist in the U.S. So it's the same thing from their perspective too, which is kind of neat. But yeah, that's where I'm at, and this is my journey so far in learning Spanish. Y'all have a good one.